The night of my engagement party was supposed to be magical. After months of planning, I finally had all the people I loved gathered in one place to celebrate me and my Daniel. We had the lights strung up in the backyard, tables full of food, and music playing softly in the background. For once, I felt like the star of the show. Then my sister Hannah arrived. Hannah has always been the kind of person who can't stand not being the center of attention. Growing up, if I got an award, she'd suddenly have big news to share. If I made a new friend, she'd find a way to become their best friend instead. It wasn't outright malicious, at least not at first, but it was exhausting. She walked in with her husband, Alex, both of them looking unusually smug. I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe they were just happy to be out for the evening. But then, just as Daniel's father started making a toast, Hannah stood up and cleared her throat. "Sorry to interrupt," she said with a giggle, "but I have some amazing news." I felt a flicker of unease. The room quieted, all eyes on her. "I'm pregnant," she blurted, clasping her hands together like she'd been waiting for a drum roll. The reaction was instant. My mom squealed, jumping up to hug her. My dad clapped Alex on the back like he'd just scored the winning goal in the Super Bowl. The guests started buzzing with excitement, some even pulling out their phones to take pictures. I stood there, frozen, my champagne glass halfway to my lips. This was my night. My engagement was supposed to be the highlight, and she had just stolen the spotlight without a second thought. Daniel squeezed my hand under the table, but I could tell he was just as annoyed. We watched as people swarmed Hannah, peppering her with questions about due dates, baby names, and cravings. The engagement toast was completely forgotten. For the rest of the night, I smiled through gritted teeth while Hannah basked in the glow of her announcement. At one point, she even joked, "Well, I guess this is a double celebration," like she hadn't just hijacked my entire evening. By the end of the night, my cheeks hurt from fake smiling. Guests left talking about Hannah's pregnancy, not my engagement. I went to bed that night feeling humiliated, replaying the scene over and over in my head. That's when I made a decision. I wasn't going to let this go. Hannah wanted attention? Fine. But I was going to make sure the next big moment she tried to claim wouldn't go the way she expected. And I already had the perfect plan in mind. The next morning, I woke up still fuming. My phone was full of messages from guests, not about how beautiful the party was or how happy they were for me and Daniel, but about how Hannah's going to be such a great mom, and I can't believe you're going to be an aunt. I barely slept, replaying every smug smile she threw my way. She knew exactly what she was doing. Hannah couldn't let me have one day in the spotlight without turning it into her own personal stage. Over breakfast, Daniel asked, "Are you okay?" I took a deep breath. "No, but I'm going to be." He raised an eyebrow. "That sounds ominous." "That's because it is," I said, half smiling. "If she thinks she can keep pulling stunts like that without consequences, she's wrong. This time, I'm going to beat her at her own game." The opportunity came faster than I expected. 2 weeks later, Hannah invited the family over for a casual dinner. My mom called me the day before, gushing about how Hannah was going to show everyone her first ultrasound picture. And that's when the idea hit me like a lightning bolt. I wasn't going to start drama for no reason. That's not my style. But if Hannah wanted every gathering to revolve around her, I was about to give her a taste of what it felt like to be upstaged. That night I called Daniel and said, "We're making an announcement at Hannah's dinner." He hesitated. "What kind of announcement?" "The kind that makes everyone forget an ultrasound exists," I said, grinning. We didn't have to lie. In fact, what I had in mind was completely true. I'd been offered a huge promotion at work a week earlier, one that came with a massive raise, a company car, and an all-expenses-paid trip to Europe for training. I hadn't told my family yet because I wanted the right moment. Well, now I had it. When we arrived at Hannah's dinner, she was in full hostess mode, flitting from guest to guest with her glow. She couldn't stop talking about the baby, which was fine. I let her have her opening act. Then, just as she brought out the ultrasound photo and everyone leaned in, I glanced at Daniel and nodded. I stood up, holding my wine glass. "Sorry to interrupt," I said, mimicking her exact tone from my engagement party. "But I have some amazing news." Hannah's smile faltered for just a second. "I got promoted to senior project manager," I announced. "Comes with a huge raise, a company car, and a 2-week trip to Europe." The reaction was immediate. Cheers, congratulations, and questions about where in Europe I'd be going. My mom even teared up, hugging me tight. Hannah stood frozen, her ultrasound photo still in her hand, ignored. For the first time in years, I watched her fade into the background. I have to admit, it felt really good. For the rest of the dinner, the conversation revolved around my promotion. People asked about the projects I'd be leading, what cities I'd be visiting in Europe, and how Daniel and I might extend the trip into a mini vacation. Hannah laughed politely at first, but I could see her jaw tightening. Every time she tried to steer the conversation back to the baby, someone would turn to me with another question about my job. It was poetic justice. When dessert came out, she finally snapped. "So, I guess a baby isn't as exciting as a trip to Europe," she said with a tight smile. I sipped my coffee and shrugged. "I think both are exciting, Hannah, but you'll have your baby for a lifetime. Europe is just 2 weeks. Let me have my moment." Her eyes narrowed. "You mean like how I let you have yours at your engagement party?" The room went awkwardly quiet. My mom frowned. "Dad?" "Hannah, what's that supposed to mean?" She gave a fake laugh. "Nothing, just..." Pointing out the irony, I met her gaze. "The difference is, I didn't plan my announcement to take the spotlight from you. I waited until after dinner, not during a toast." She didn't reply, but her cheeks flushed red. I knew she hated being called out, especially in front of the family. After dinner, while everyone was saying their goodbyes, she pulled me aside in the hallway. "You just couldn't let me have one night, could you?" She hissed. I raised an eyebrow. "One night? You mean like my engagement party, where you hijacked the whole thing for your pregnancy announcement?" She scoffed. "That wasn't the same. A baby is bigger news than an engagement." I smiled coldly. "Well, I guess a trip to Europe is bigger news than a blurry picture of a blob, isn't it?" Her eyes widened, and I could tell I'd crossed the line. But honestly, I didn't care. That night, I went home feeling a strange mix of satisfaction and caution. I knew Hannah well enough to realize this wasn't over. She was competitive to the core, and if I had embarrassed her in front of the family, she was going to find a way to get me back. The question was, when? I didn't have to wonder for long. 2 months later, Hannah's baby shower invitation arrived in the mail, and right away I could tell she had something up her sleeve. The invitation to Hannah's baby shower was pink, glittery, and oddly formal for our family. Instead of a casual afternoon in someone's backyard, it was booked at an upscale event hall in the city, complete with a catered brunch, champagne bar, and professional photographer. Daniel raised an eyebrow when I showed it to him. "She's going all out." "She's not just going all out," I said, scanning the invitation. "She's planning something. I can feel it." He smirked. "You think she's going to try and one-up you again?" "I don't think I know." The day of the shower, I arrived in a pale blue dress with a small gift bag. Not too flashy, not too simple. The hall was decorated like a wedding reception, with flowers on every table and pastel balloons framing the stage. Hannah, of course, was in a custom maternity gown that looked straight out of a magazine photo shoot. She greeted me with an oversweet smile. "Oh, you made it. I wasn't sure you'd come after, you know?" I smiled back. I wouldn't miss it for the world. The shower started with the usual games, gifts, cake. But then Hannah took the microphone. "Before we move on, I just want to share a special surprise with everyone." Daniel glanced at me. Yep, this was it. Hannah beamed as a man in a suit wheeled in a flat-screen TV. "We had a 3D ultrasound done. We've decided to do the gender reveal here today." Everyone gasped and clapped as the screen lit up with the image of her baby. Then, in big, sparkly letters, "It's a girl." The room erupted in cheers. Hannah's mom cried. Hannah hugged her husband, soaking in the attention like it was oxygen. She kept glancing at me over the crowd, her smile just a little too smug. I clapped politely, but I wasn't going to play her game this time. Let her have the spotlight, or so I thought. Because as the applause died down, Daniel stood up from our table and said, "Well, since we're sharing big news today." My head whipped toward him. "What are you doing?" He grinned. "We just found out that next month, we'll be closing on our very first house." Gasps and congratulations filled the room again. People were instantly asking about the neighborhood, the size, the backyard. Hannah's face froze, her smile faltering just enough for me to see the irritation brewing. I didn't plan this, but apparently karma had. The rest of the shower felt like a repeat of her reaction at the dinner party. She laughed too loudly, overcompensated, and kept trying to redirect the attention. But the truth was, no matter how hard she tried, people were already picturing our housewarming party. I could tell. This wasn't just sibling rivalry anymore. This was war. A month later, our housewarming party was in full swing. We'd invited family, close friends, and a few neighbors. The backyard was lit with string lights, music played softly, and Daniel was manning the grill. I spotted Hannah arriving in a sleek black dress that looked more like cocktail attire than casual party wear. She was pushing her newborn daughter in an expensive-looking stroller, already attracting attention. Oh my gosh, she's gorgeous. Several aunts cooed as they rushed over to peek inside. Hannah smiled like a queen presenting her royal air. Thank you, she said, soaking up the compliments. You almost didn't come. The baby's been keeping us up all night, but I couldn't miss seeing the new house. She said it with just enough emphasis to make it sound like a dig, but I ignored it. We're glad you made it. For the first hour, she was mostly polite, though I caught her making subtle comparisons to her own home. Oh, your kitchen is cute. We decided to go for marble instead of quartz, more timeless. Then, as Daniel was giving a small group a tour of the upstairs, Hannah gathered everyone in the living room. I just realized we have our big announcement to make tonight too. I froze. Here we go again. Hannah cleared her throat and announced, We've decided we're going to move. We put in an offer on a bigger house yesterday, and it was accepted. The room erupted into congratulations. She added quickly, It's in the same neighborhood as the top-rated school in the state. We just couldn't pass it up. I smiled and congratulated her, but inside, I knew exactly what this was. A calculated move to shift the spotlight. Still, I wasn't going to let her win. When the noise died down, I said, That's great. We'll be neighbors then. The room quieted for a second. Hannah's smile flickered. Yes. Neighbors? Yes, I said casually. We've been planning to buy a second property as a rental investment. In that same neighborhood, actually. Daniel's closing the deal next week. Hannah's jaw tightened. She gave a brittle laugh. Wow, I guess we just have the same taste. For the rest of the evening, she was quieter than usual, though she still made an effort to chat with everyone. But I could see the gears turning in her head. This rivalry wasn't cooling down. It was escalating. And by the way she hugged me at the end of the night, whispering, Enjoy it while it lasts. I knew she already had her next move planned. 2 weeks later, my phone buzzed with a text from my cousin Claire. Hey, just wanted to let you know, Hannah's been saying some things about you at family get-togethers. Thought you should hear it from me. My stomach sank. I called Claire immediately. What's she saying? Claire hesitated. She's been hinting that you and Daniel only bought the house to show her up. She's also telling people you're struggling financially and might have to sell it soon. I sat there, stunned. That's ridiculous. We're fine financially. I know, Claire said. But she's planting seeds. You know how this family can be. Gossip spreads fast. I thanked her for telling me and hung up, feeling a mix of anger and dread. Hannah wasn't just trying to outshine me anymore. She was trying to undermine me. A few days later, I got a text from my mom. Are you and Daniel okay? Hannah mentioned you've been stressed about money. That was the last straw. I called Hannah directly. She answered on the second ring, her voice sugary sweet. Hey sis, what's up? Cut the act, Hannah, I snapped. I know you've been talking about us to the family. Why? She gave a fake laugh. Oh, come on, people talk. I didn't say anything that bad. You're lying, I said flatly. If you think making up rumors will make you look better, you're wrong. It just makes you look petty. Her tone shifted instantly. Petty? You're the one who keeps stealing my moments. I just want people to see the real you. I took a deep breath. The real me doesn't need to tear anyone else down to feel good about myself. Can you say the same? There was a long pause before she said, Whatever, believe what you want. And then she hung up. I knew confronting her wouldn't magically fix things. But I wasn't going to let her smear my name without defending myself. So I called my mom, aunts, and anyone else who might have heard the rumors, calmly explaining the truth. To my surprise, most of them said they didn't believe her anyway. We know you, Aunt Linda said. And honestly, it's starting to look like Hannah's jealous. For the first time, I realized I might not need to keep playing this game with her. People were starting to see her behavior for what it was, and that was the one thing she couldn't control. Still, I had a feeling this wasn't the end. Hannah thrived on competition, And if the family stopped paying attention to her, she'd find a new way to stir things up. But next time, I'd be ready.